Oh shit.
How's it going, girls?
Good.
You guys ready for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ashka, are you on, darling?
Yeah.
Anvi ને સિદ્ધિ તમારી
All
પાસે
right, so
Tom
let's make sure that it should automatically go to mute for everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Anvi ને સિદ્ધિ તમારી પાસે you have some intro,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So 1:30, maybe 1:32 we start, and then you guys intro and then hand it off to hopefully Krish
We
will
just say
join.
what Eva Connect is and then let him introduce himself.
Yep.
Okay.
અને બધા questions જે post કર્યા છે, those you know who's gonna ask
Yeah.
something, right?
Me, Oscar, and Onvi are just gonna like ask them.
Yeah, like
to-
have them say it in the chat and then yeah.
Correct. I will actually log off as Gujarati Mandal Columbus. I think Maru you are connect will log in from last week and I'll log in as myself.
Okay, wait, are we asking the questions or are we like making other people ask?
I think we're making them say in the chat.
Should we just say it?
I think, yeah. Wait, what?
We'll just be like some questions we've got or
Yeah. We can like have people say in the chat and then we can like read it out. I feel like that's easier.
okay. Okay, go. Say hi.
Anvi and Siddhi, do we know if Antra is gonna join?
I don't think so. She didn't say that.
Okay. Krish, do you know if Antra is gonna join?
No, she didn't message me about anything either. Also, could I get access to share my screen?
Sure.
Thank you. Are you guys able to see it?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I think we're gonna start since it's 1:30. So okay. First we're gonna talk about what Yuva Connect is. Yuva Connect is Gujarati Mandal of Central Ohio's official youth group created by youth for the youth, and it was launched in 2025. Our mission is empowering the next generation while still keeping our Gujarati roots alive. And if you guys have any questions like along the presentation, I would just put it in chat, and then me and Siddhi can just like read them out at the end of the presentation. So yeah, if Krish, if you want to start or like give an intro on like who you are and stuff.
Yeah. So, hey everyone, my name is Krish Sav. I'm an incoming freshman at the University of Texas at Austin. And so just this past admission cycle, I went ahead and navigated the entire process. And so, for those of you guys who are the parents and also for the students as well, being able to write a successful college essay is probably the most important part of your application as a whole because that's the only words that you have to prove yourself. And so I'll be going over like how to write a successful essay, also just sharing a little bit more about myself. And we'll also just be going over a couple of essays and I'll hand it on over to you guys. I'll give you guys about 15 minutes or so to read your own three essays that I've prepared. Analyze what makes a good essay, a bad essay, and a great essay. And again, like they just said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just type them in the chat and then they can go ahead and read them at the end. We do have about 30 minutes allocated specifically for questions. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit more about me. I applied computer science to all the colleges. I got into Cornell, Duke, UT, Georgia Tech, Northeastern, and UW-Madison as well. And so like having written a lot of essays, I know that they are the most important part, no matter what. Even if you have a good SAT score, your essays that make it or break it in the case of your application. And so with this slideshow and with today. I really want to go ahead and kind of emphasize that you should know how to write a strong essay, and hopefully you're able to at least get a general idea of how you can be successful when you're navigating this process. We'll be going over just a couple of things today. So again, hallmarks of an outstanding essay. We'll also be reading two winning essays. And by winning essays, I mean that these were really successful. They went pretty viral on the internet. And also one of them is taken from Johns Hopkins itself. And then again, like I said before, we're going to be analyzing the essays and then also talking about some critical mistakes to avoid. And then at the end, we'll have an open essay Q&A session. So just some core objectives for what we'll be going over today. Again, we want to be able to know and try to teach you about how you can initiate a creative essay process and also selecting a truly personal topic. Also, we want to talk about what these admissions officers actually are looking for because it might be kind of hard to, kind of dig deep and figure out, okay, what am I supposed to write that an AO would like? But it is something you have to understand. It might be a little bit difficult at first, but just having that general gist and having that idea is going to be really important. And then again, your personal statement is by far the most important essay in my opinion. You send it to all your colleges. And if you don't have a good personal statement, if you don't have a good personal brand, as I like to call it, nobody's going to accept you. And so for that, you really do need to hone in on getting your personal statement down. The earlier you start, the better. That's what I've seen. I started my essay in about early July. So around this time, about a week ago. And I was able to get it done by mid-August. And then I started applying to colleges around then. So just make sure you guys have your essays down, especially your personal statement. And then also, I understand that the brainstorming and outlining process might be hard. And so we'll also try to go over and explain a little bit more about how you can go ahead and complete that as well. So let's start off by talking about what makes a great essay. So again, highly specific and a captivating hook. If you don't hook on to the reader, and if you don't hook the reader on, if you don't hook on the admissions officer, they're not going to be able to really understand or relate to what it is that you're trying to say. They're not going to want to read. On average, these AOs, they have about 7 minutes to read your entire application. Not just your essays, but your entire application. From what you submit about your AP scores, about your SAT, only about 7 minutes at these top colleges. And so for you to really get their attention, you want to have a captivating hook and you want to have a highly specific essay. It shouldn't be written by ChatGPT or it shouldn't be written by something that they could say, oh, like I've seen a million other kids write this. It has to be something that's specific to you and authentic. Part of what that means is, again, like I said before, being specific, talking about details that only you could write about. Of course, everyone may have gone to a basketball game or a soccer game, but what happened in a soccer game that only happened to you? Obviously, you should avoid niches because, again, it's super popular. It's going to be really common, and you're just going to be a needle in a haystack, basically. But you do also want to demonstrate personal growth. If you don't do that, nobody's going to accept you, and that's just the sad truth. Before, college essays used to be a way of showing creativity, but now they really are a method for colleges to see how has this person grown and how will they grow in our college. Also, you really want to understand and use vivid and concrete sensory details. Goes in with being highly specific, but make sure you use imagery. Make sure you use the rhetorical essays and whatever you might be written in AP Lang or AP Lit if you guys have taken it. That does apply to college essays as well, and it does help you. And then again, you really need to conclude, and it should be tied to a purpose. Whatever you wrote about, it has to be purposeful. You can't just write about something random and expect college AOs to really like it because without a purpose, no essay is really strong. So make sure you guys are also keeping that in mind as you guys start or as you guys might be into this essay process yourself. So first and foremost, I'm going to be starting off by talking about essay one, which is Be the Salt of the Earth. I'll go ahead and give you guys about 3 minutes to read it yourself, and then I'll go ahead and analyze it later on. Again, this is by Maria G, and this is from Johns Hopkins University itself. And so if you guys search it up on Google yourself, you can probably find the essay. And Johns Hopkins, this is someone who got admitted to JHU, and their AO and their admissions office actually went out and published this, talking about how this is such a great essay. So I'll go ahead and let you guys read it now for 3 minutes. All right, so that was about 3 minutes, and now what I'll be going ahead and doing is kind of analyzing what made this essay great. So let's talk about why this works. Again, it really finds this profound meaning and even an ordinary everyday interaction, right? This is something that's pretty common or something that might be like pretty, boring for someone, but they found a profound meaning within it. Also, it just demonstrates empathy and intellectual curiosity without bragging. One of the biggest things that you guys need to be able to really like hone in on when you guys are writing it is that you guys can't brag. No matter what, avoid bragging altogether. She looks at this common household item about salt, something that we all probably overlook, and she explains her entire worldview around it. And you can kind of just see the way that she looks at the world just by reading this one essay itself, and it's something that's honestly pretty rudimentary. And also, the use of vivid sensory details is really amazing. It immediately immerses the reader in the scene and just in the essay itself, and that's what makes it highly specific, and that's what makes the admissions office actually love this essay a lot. And then also, you can kind of notice how calm and reflective the tone is. And so, because of that, it really does hone in and really shows up as a successful essay, just because it's talking and doing something that a lot of teenagers may not be able to really evoke in their readers at such a young age. Like being calm isn't really associated with a teenager, but they're able to do that in this essay right here. Also, it kind of connects with her future academic applications as well, which is always something that AOs love to see. When you're writing an essay, always try to make sure that you kind of connect it to the way that you're going to grow in the future or the way that you're going to evolve in the future, whether that be through your major or whether that be through something else, like an accomplishment that you want to do in the future. This is what makes the Salt essay super unique and super amazing, just because again, they took this, normal item of assault and they turned it around into like the view of this person's world. And then they also talked about her future academic aspirations and just the way that they're successful and they want to be in the real world in the future. If you guys are able to do that, you guys are going to succeed. Because again, talking about that growth as well, colleges, all they want to see is that you've grown, even though you might not be perfect, even if you highlight an imperfection of yours, even if you say, oh, I made this mistake, but this is how I grew from it, you should always start an essay by being here and then trying to end off here. How did that growth happen? And you should be showing that in your essays. That's what makes an essay really undeniable. And that's what makes AO stop and be like, okay, you know what? I should read this essay. So next, we'll be reading the Costco essay. A lot of you guys might already be familiar with what this is, but again, it went super viral on the internet as well. And it was by this person named Brittany Stinson. She was admitted to 5 Ivy League schools and I believe Stanford as well with this essay. And so it was really amazing. And this, again, this essay is about Costco, which everything, we already know about. But how she kind of flipped it around and kind of made it really unique and animated is what made this essay really stand out. Again, it was a common thing that she chose, right? A common subject, just like salt. Costco is something that we all know. But instead of overlooking that, she turned it around and she made it into something really specific and really amazing. So go ahead and also read this. I'll give you guys 3 minutes and we can come back and I'll go ahead and tell you what makes it strong. All right, that was about 3 minutes. And then again, when I say AO, I mean an admissions officer. Those are the people who are going to be reading your essays. So for whoever pointed out in the chat, yeah, thank you for doing that. But again, this is an essay that's really popular within the admission space. And again, talking about a big box retail store might not be like something that everyone thinks about. But again, it sounds ridiculous on paper, but it was a masterclass. And the way that she did it was really amazing. Talking about the analysis as well, it starts off by this highly unique and humorous and memorable hook. Something that I want to really emphasize is if you are able to, try to make your hook unique. Try to make it a little bit different as opposed to what everyone else is doing. Maybe you can make it a little bit scary. That's what I did personally for mine. I made it a little bit more horrific, or I tried to make it a little bit scary. And that's what worked. It got the reader's attention. When I went ahead and sent it to my high school counselor, she said that it took her through this roller coaster, and that's what you really want. You want these people to be hooked, and whether that be through making them either scared or making them laugh in a humorous way. Something that's going to make you stand out, that's what you want to do. Also, it transforms a mundane setting, right? Something that's really basic. Nobody would really think about writing an essay about Costco, but it transforms it into a canvas that talks about her intellectual exploration, talks about how she wants to be a conquistador, which is like this conqueror, and how she uses her imagination when she's at Costco. Also, one other thing that it's really is good at doing is showing this distinct, confident, and sophisticated personal voice. something that not a lot of times happens. And so for an 18-year-old or 17-year-old to be writing this really just stands out to the admissions office because they can see that this person has done something that's unique. They've used a humorous hook as opposed to using this normal hook using imagery. And they're also able to use a sophisticated personal voice that is different from what anyone else would be able to write. One key thing between both these essays is again, it was highly personal. You don't want it to be relatable to anyone else, and you should try to make it as specific to you as you possibly can. The way that you can do that, again, is by using your own personal voice, talking about your own experiences. And something I've found is talking about everyday normal experiences that kind of evolved you is the way to go. That's what I did for myself in my own essay when I was applying. And so I used me using the dishwasher as a metaphor and turned that into being successful in life. And so it's things like these little everyday things that you do without even thinking about it, that are what is going to make you successful. And again, this essay takes a risk with an unconventional structure that pays off immensely. It isn't structured like most common essays are. And in turn, what that does is it's actually really successful. It turns out to pay off because, again, this person got into 5 Ivy Leagues. And they got that through, again, using the sophisticated personal voice and using these rhetorical devices that only they were able to use. And again, they did it really well. So now what we're going to be doing is I'll give you about 20 minutes to go ahead and read the essays in the document. I'll be going ahead and sharing those and in the chat. And again, also I see the comment. I'll go ahead and answer that later on at the end. But that's a good question. Okay, so I just shared it in the chat. What we'll be doing is about 20 minutes. Go ahead and read the essays in the document. And then I want you guys to go ahead and identify the great essay, the medium essay, and the bad essay. That's what I want you guys to do. Go ahead and tell me out of these three essays, which is the great one, the medium one, and the bad one. And I started the 20-minute timer. All right, everyone, that's the end of the 20 minutes. So what we're doing now is going over each of the essays, and I'll be go ahead and asking you guys if you guys are able to either put in the chat or come off mute of what each of the essays you guys thought were the great, the medium, and the bad. So for the first one, what are your guys' thoughts? And again, you guys can put it either in the chat or come off of mute. All right, I got one bad. And why do you guys think that way? Why do you guys think that that was bad, the first one? It did, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. All of what you guys are saying is completely true. Yeah, so Shriek, that's completely right. And yeah, Ansh, exactly correct. And so good job on responding, y'all. So yes, essay one is a terrible one. And actually this one was also pretty viral. I'm not sure if you guys know, but it was Zach Yadegari's, and he's the founder of this Cal AI. And so he's already a multimillionaire, but he wrote this essay and he got rejected from most of the colleges that he applied to. And I'm pretty sure he's at UMiami now. But again, all of what you guys have said, right? It's kind of insufferably arrogant. He kind of lacks self-awareness because when you're applying to a university, you essentially have to tell them that this is where you want to be. You need them. Of course, this student really did kind of at the end say like, oh, like this is where I want to go to university. But he starts off by saying about how he never wants to go to university. So that already sets up a bad tone. If that was an admissions officer, they would already stop reading it just by reading that itself. This person says that they don't need university. Why are they applying here? And also the humble brags that you guys also did mention. Again, you don't want to do that. If you do, talk about it in a subtle way that makes the reader itself think like, oh, this person's so amazing. Don't just drop it like that. Again, he talks about like, being a millionaire or just talking about throwing money at him. And that is honestly just pretty arrogant. And you don't want to do that in your own essays. Also, it's super fake with the way that there's a pretentious word salad. It uses lots of buzzwords rather than authentic communication, and you don't want to do that. Don't just use fancy vocab if you think that's what's going to help you stand out, because it won't. Instead, it'll just make it look like AI or it'll look like Claude wrote it for you. Also, there's zero evidence of growth. Despite the prompt explicitly asking for a period of growth and a personal growth period, the essay just doesn't mention it at all. It just talks about how, businesses are ready to throw money at him and that now he wants to go to university at the end in one line. Also, his rationale for going to college is pretty vague. It just talks about wanting to go to a college, but it's just boiled down to one sentence. When you think about it, when you're writing an essay for going to a college for the next 4 years, you really want to hone in on why you want to go to that college. And kind of for the person statement, you don't need to really specify the exact reasons because you'll send it to everywhere. But if you're going to talk about why you need college and what you're going to do with that college education, it's going to help you much more than just ending off by saying, now I want to go to college. And then also just never, ever, ever just say, oh, I never wanted to go to college because that really sets up a bad tone. What that does is goes ahead and signals that you might want to drop out or you might leave or you might not finish your curriculum within 4 years, which is what these universities are looking at when they do enroll someone. So just again, this is a pretty bad essay, even though it was written by someone I would say pretty smart. So just make sure it doesn't happen to you. Make sure you don't brag. Make sure you don't mention that you don't want to go to college or you never wanted to go to college. And just avoid a word salad. Be yourself, write in your own way, and trust me, you're going to be way more successful than you think. All right, what about essay two now? What did you guys think of that? Yep, good. And why do you guys think that way? Exactly. So whatever you guys are saying is completely true, right? It starts off with a really unique hook and shows growth. Two of the things that you want to always do when you're doing an essay. And again, it's something that's common, but they tie it to a unique purpose. And also it's pretty unique in the way that they write about, hating this letter. And so again, it also just employs this structural hook that demands immediate attention. And then also it navigates this profound emotional grief with exceptional maturity, which again is something that you want to really be able to show to these colleges, especially at when when you're applying to college at 18. Not all the applicants are going to be mature, but if you guys are able to share that and if you guys are able to demonstrate how you have matured and how you're different from the rest of the group, that is going to help you stand out. Also, it effectively transitions from a personal loss to finding passionate purpose. Again, what you guys said is completely true, right? It kind of just goes on to this journey and it's highly unique. It isn't something that really anyone would really want to talk about, but it is specific to that person and the way that they wrote it. Also, it keeps a tightly focused theme centered on a single linguistic quirk, sorry, with the letter S. Of course, nobody would really like talk about it or nobody would really think that much of it, but they explain the story of why they hate this letter. And this again was a super successful essay as well. It went really viral because it got this kid into a lot of different universities. And so again, right now it's pretty oversaturated. If you read about how you hate a leather letter, don't do that. But again, this is an example of how even in the most common things or in the most random things, you can find purpose and you can translate that purpose into something that's effective, just like this student did. They were able to get into the university of their choice. They got into multiple actually, if I remember correctly. But again, what this does compared to what the previous one didn't do, is again, it talks about how they're going to grow with college. It talks about that personal growth. It doesn't brag. It instead talks about this personal vulnerability and this personal story and ties it back to how they're going to grow and how they're going to shape themselves, which is what you want to do inevitably. All right, what about essay three? What are your guys' thoughts? And again, now that the great and the bad are already gone, again, you guys can probably tell this one's going to be the last one. But what about this made it not be a great? Yep, you're right. It's decent. Exactly. Correct. Again, you don't want to use too many fancy words. And again, the hook was also pretty mid, and it doesn't show a lot of growth, which is what you want to do. So yeah, completely correct. So again, it lacks this broader community impact as well, and it rushes to the final growth reflection. Also, it just needs deeper vulnerability and emotion. It doesn't have this personal touch, but it does do a good job of, having some descriptive details, but again, not all of it. And actually, this third essay is completely AI generated. And so I went ahead and just generated this from a random prompt. And so that's why it's pretty mediocre. And again, this is why I wanted to kind of go ahead and tell you guys why you should not be using AI to just write all of your essays. Because again, this is what happens. First of all, it might be personal if you guys read it in one way, but it doesn't really have that specificness that you really want to have when you are in these essays. And then again, it kind of uses this word salad where there's too many fancy words. And when you use AI, that's what it's probably going to tend to do. Also, it isn't vulnerable. When you're writing these essays, try to be vulnerable because again, you're trying to use ethos, pathos, logos. Try to use these three wherever you can because it's gonna help you get a feel for, when everyone is reading it, they might feel for you or they might be like, oh, like this is such a great story. Like I should definitely vouch for this person. What you want to do is get this admissions officer on your side, and the way that you do that is again, try to add this emotional aspect, or again by showing this personal growth that shows like, dang, this person really has grown a lot from what they were before to what they are now when they're applying to college. And so, for a lot of these, there's a committee, right? And you guys probably might already know, but what you want is if your AO it really likes you and really vouches for you, that's what you want. And when they do that, the chances of you getting admitted immediately skyrocket. That way that you do that again is by showing this vulnerability, which it doesn't really do that. And again, it rushes to this final growth reflection, which you don't want to do. Try to transition and try to work it slowly but surely, and that's what's going to make you a lot more successful when you're writing it. And also, I know that there was a question regarding AI for like using AI for a hook. That's totally all right. In fact, that's something that I did as well, trying to use AI to kind of help me brainstorm. But just make sure that you don't let AI become the pilot and you don't let AI write the essay for you because trust me, it's just gonna be a waste of time. When you're reading it again, it's not gonna make any sense. It's not gonna like really talk about what you want. So what I did is I went ahead and gave AI like the script and I try to like talk with it like about, okay, this is what I want to write about. Tell me how I can make a plan or an outline. And it made me an outline. But the words, they're all myself. Again, you can use AI for editing as well, but just make sure it doesn't do the heavy lifting. Because again, it's your story that only you know about. No matter how much description you give to AI, it won't give you the exact details. So just be careful about that. But for a hook, I would say it's totally acceptable. But again, just make sure it relates. And also, one other thing that you can do is just go ahead and put it into Grammarly, and it will tell you how much of it comes out as AI. Ideally, you want like less than 10% of it to come out as AI, because now as colleges get smarter and smarter, they are going to be detecting AI even though they said that they don't. And again, it happens on accident, right? Even if you didn't use AI, it might come up as AI. But if you try to limit it to at least less than 10% and you know that you haven't used AI for a lot of it, that's completely all right. In an ideal world, you shouldn't use AI at all, only use it for editing. But in today's day and age, everyone's using it, everyone's trying to use it to help themselves. So go for it. But again, just make sure you're not letting it become the pilot. You do your work yourself and then you give it and ask it to revise it or review it again. And so again, talking about things not to do, also just don't guess what an admissions officer wants to hear. Trust me, they know when someone's trying to be pretentious or when they're trying to write an essay that they're not really passionate about. Also, don't summarize your resume. Like this is what the first essay did, right? It talked about how he's so successful, how he doesn't need college, how businesses have already thrown a lot of money at him, how he's going to be successful no matter what. And you don't want to do that. The essays are that one part that you get to write yourself and you get to write in your own words, in your own authentic story that you really want to go ahead and explain this internal growth of yours that you've had. Don't summarize the resume. And again, for a lot of different universities, like I know for a lot of the different universities that I applied to, like UT, they give you an option to upload a resume. And so if you just go ahead and summarize your resume again in these essays, that's not going to work because then you have two of the things doing the same thing and you wasted that space for that essay that you could have used to instead show your personal growth. Also, like try not to adopt an overly stiff or heavy academic tone. Like I was saying, just don't, use some random fancy words that you don't use in your everyday life. Of course, it's good to, use varying words. And again, that's something that I also would advise using AI for. You can ask, say, hey, I have however, but how can I replace that to be a little bit more different, or how can I make it a little bit more vivid by using these replacement words? But again, don't try to be and try to make this like an academic research paper because that's not what it is. You have to write in your own words, and again, you have to think in the terms of an AO. If they see a bajillion different fancy words, are they really going to like to read it? The chances are that no, they won't like to read it at all. So just make sure you don't do that. Also, if you fail to connect your personal story to the broader community, that's going to be bad. Always try to make sure that you connect what you did to a personal, broader community or just something like that wherever applicable. If you're writing about how you help other people, talk about how you helped yourself first or how you went to this internal growth process and then how that translated into you empowering other people. Also, don't rush to the conclusion. That's what the third essay did that made it really bad. And just don't attempt to cover many topics. Like I said, if you guys really focus in on one specific scene of your life, that's going to be a lot better as opposed to, rushing over and going over a whole summary of your life, starting from age 5 to now where you are at age 17 or 18, depending on when you're applying to college. That's again the mistakes to avoid, and just make sure you guys don't do that at all. And with that, what we'll do is go ahead and start the Q&A. So it's about 30 minutes, but we have a little bit more than that. So again, you guys can ask anything about essays for this remaining time. And then I know that you guys are also putting some questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and answer those as well. And yes, so for your question for whoever just DM me, go ahead and yeah, that's completely all right, right? You can use AI to kind of go ahead and explain like how you can make it a little bit more like personal or more growth oriented, but take that input and weigh it against what you've already written and see where there's a discrepancy, right? Where is AI kind of hallucinating and where is it not working? And fix those things. Again, don't just say like, "Hey AI, make this essay for me," because that's not what's going to work. Make sure you have either an outline done by AI or you written the essay yourself and you're just going ahead and peer reviewing it because you don't want the AI to do the heavy lifting for you. It's gonna hallucinate, it's gonna get things wrong, and at the end of the day, it's gonna be super generic because think about it, how many other kids are using AI to write their essays? And like an LLM only has a certain knowledge base, right? So oftentimes it gives the same input or it gives a similar input to every single student. So just make sure you don't do that. But yeah. And then as for the number of words, the Common App requires it to be a maximum of about 650 words. So anything from, I would say, at least 550 to 650 is great. Personally, for me, I wrote about 642 words, if I remember correctly. So it was, again, by that, around that limit. So again, up to you guys, but the max is 650. And yeah, I think there's someone that raised their hand. So you guys can get off mute as well. It's totally all good.
We had a couple questions that people asked, so we're just gonna ask them. The first question is, how do I choose the right topic for my college essay?
Yeah, so again, that kind of depends on, your story, who you are. Again, there's this like list of Common App essay prompts that you guys can go ahead and like view right now. They don't usually change a lot. And so you guys can go ahead and figure out which one resonates with you a lot. Also, there is a prompt number 7, if I remember correctly, that it just asks, talk about any essay of your choice. So let's say you're talking about something that's super unique or something that doesn't fit into those broader essay prompts. You guys can go ahead and click on number 7, which is like your own thing, and you can honestly talk about anything.
Okay. Someone asked in the chat, can I use the same essay for multiple colleges?
For a personal statement, yes, because again, the personal statement is again, what you're gonna write on your Common App that's common to everything. So you submit that to all your colleges. Again, you can kind of tweak it like as you evolve or as you get to realize like, okay, this is what I messed up on for my first college. I want to go ahead and edit this. But personal statement you use for everything. Yeah. Also,
Okay.
I think Pratik, sorry if I butchered your name. I think you have a question, correct?
So, like if I want to review, this is from my kid. So, is there any professional services that can review the essays, or once I write multiple essays, is there, how do I look for the reviewing with somebody, like a colleague, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I myself actually do review essays. You can go ahead and DM me, and I'll be more than happy to like assist you on that. But again, another way that you can do it is again talking with as many people as you guys can for your kid, right? So again, they have high school counselors, they have teachers. Again, an English teacher is probably going to be your best bet for getting you like the most specific information apart from a professional counselor or someone who has written the essays themselves. But also just be wary because you don't want to get too many eyes on it. And the reason why I say that is because if you get a billion people to like give you feedback, they're gonna give you a billion different responses. And so what are you gonna do with that? So ideally what I advise everyone that I've done in the past is talk to about 2 or 3 people max. And these 2 or 3 people make sure they're like really good in whatever it is that they're doing and they are successful and they have experience. So that way you're not, ruining the purpose of your own essay and like losing your authentic voice.
Thanks.
Another question we had was, what topics should I avoid writing about?
Again, talking about like niche things or like a sports injury, that's the most common one. Also, again, talking about how you're super successful already, we don't want to do that. That's what the number one Cal AI's founder did. He talked about how he's super successful. It came out as braggy, like as being a brat or like being super braggy. So just go ahead and make sure you guys don't do that. Again, something that's super like common as well. There's a whole list actually online of essay topics to avoid. So I would go ahead and like read those. Personally, for me, what I've done is just ask people to like go ahead and like do something that's super specific. So either in one moment of their life, don't do something too broad as well. So like starting again from age 5 to age 18, you don't want to do that.
Another question was, to find such hook or anything you just mentioned, can we use AI tool? I know it's big no for AI tools, but is there any ways to use AI as a starter?
Yeah, again, you can use AI as a starter if you want, right? But just make sure that you guys don't let it do the heavy lifting. Make sure you don't make AI like, all right, fine, go ahead, make me this essay, and then don't copy and paste it into the Common App because you don't want to do that. Again, there's ways that you can just make sure and prompt it, and you can probably the best way of using AI, in my opinion, would be to just go ahead and review it. So if you already have an essay written out, either review it or again, like I said, make an outline using AI. And so that way you can kind of base it off of that and then use your own, like again, you do the heavy lifting yourself. That's what I would recommend. Also, I think there's a hand from Raj, so go ahead and um, you can come off of me.
Yes, I wanted to ask, typically when I'm writing an academic essay for school, I would use an outline, like I'd write an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and then conclusion. But is that like the same format you would use for a college essay? And if you do that, then would you have like a thesis? Like what exactly do you write in your body paragraphs?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Again, what school teaches us is obviously not always going to be applicable. And so what I did, I actually went ahead and used a pretty unconventional method. And so I won't get into like much specifics because it might not be applicable to everyone, but actually the opposite of whatever like the school teaches us, right? So like start with, again, have a thesis, of course, but I didn't actually format my essay into like body paragraphs. I instead added dialogue and I added a lot more vivid description that made it flow a lot better as opposed to having strict paragraphs. So if you guys can do that, again, that's a really good thing that you can do because like I said, right, think about how many people are going to be writing and structuring in the same way. If you have a different structure, if you have a different prompt, if you have a different way of writing it, it's going to help you stand out just that much more.
So it's like basically completely up to us how we choose to format it.
Exactly. As long as it makes sense, use your freedom, right? It's your essay, it's your choice of again going ahead and writing it the way that you want. I actually got advised not to like do the way that I did it. They were like the person that I was talking with, like the grown-ups, they were like, okay, make sure you do it in like rigid paragraphs, like paragraph one, paragraph two, paragraph three, having a thesis. But I didn't like, pay attention to them because I was like, wait, if I just do that, how is it gonna help me stand out from anyone else, right? When you think about it, all this information applies to everyone that's applying. These hundreds of thousands of kids that are applying to these colleges. And so what is the one thing that can do to help you stand out? And for me, that was using a, unique topic and as well as again going ahead and using a different structure.
Okay, and then I have another question if that's fine.
Yeah.
So I know in college essays we're supposed to talk about like growth and like how we're like be like how we know what we want to do and why we want to go to that college specifically. But I also hear about talks about how like AOs are always like we want to see who you are in this essay. I just feel a bit confused on like how I would show myself in like an essay in that way that AOs wanted to see.
Yeah, so that's completely fair, right? And so for this one, what this was about was the personal statement. And for the one that you're talking about, right, about how you're a great fit for the school, that is going to be in the supplemental essays that you write specifically for the colleges themselves. So, for example, for Cornell, I had to write this essay about why Cornell, why do you want to go here, and how would you thrive? And so, again, that's where I wrote about like how I'd be doing great there and how I'd be succeeding there, and also just why I'm a great fit for the school, why I'd, thrive in that campus. That's where you like talk about how you're a great fit. And the way that you do that is there's always on the website, if you go on like Cornell's website or if you go on any website, they have this thing called like the institutional priorities or what they look for in their candidates. So you can go ahead and kind of like read it. Again, I think for Cornell, at least for the major I was applying for CS, they're looking at like innovators, people who have built things, people who have like, done research as well. And so I tailored it towards that, talking about how I'm a builder or how I'm an innovator in my community space, the things that I've done, like the nonprofits that I've done. I went ahead and talked about that. And so because that matched with Cornell's like objectives of like, okay, this is what we look for in the students that are applying, it aligned. And that's what helped me like at least in my opinion, unlock the keys and get in.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's another question from Ananya, so you guys can go ahead and unmute as well.
So basically my question was, so you know how, like you said, the personal statement is kind of like a narrative and that's supposed to be like a story about you, and your supplemental is like why the school, and like the word counts are different for that. So for the supplemental, I feel like it's so generic to just say like, oh, like I'm a good fit for this school because everyone's saying that. So how do you kind of stand out in that sense?
Again, right? It kind of just depends. Again, the experiences that you have is really going to be unique to you. One of the other ways that I really did stand out, in my opinion, was of course extracurriculars, because what you do is you use this extracurriculars in your essays. So again, like I interned at this company, and this is how it's helped me grow, and this is why I want to do this major at this university. And then another thing that you can do, apart from talking about your experiences, is talking about what the university has to offer. So again, when you think about it, right, a lot of different people are going to apply to the same university, but how many people are going to list the same resources that you listed in your essays, right? So for example, the way that I went ahead and did it was I talked about research labs at the different universities, or I talked about specific professors that I want to learn from. And so when you think about it that way, that reduces the competition of the people that you're really competing against. because a lot of these people who are going to write, they might not be ultra specific. And when you list out names of professors, when you list out names of specific classes that you want to take and opportunities that you're going to get at the university, it automatically helps you stand out just that much more. So that's what I would do. First, list your like extracurriculars, tie your ECs to the way that you're gonna thrive at that university, and then mention what that university has to offer by like, using a name or using an opportunity that only they have and talking about that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right. And then I think there was, okay, from a student, what should you write differently in college and essays for a specific college versus the main essay? So again, the main essay is where you're pitching yourself. It's a personal statement or a personal brand that you're developing. You're talking about who you are, how you've undergone this growth experience, how you're going to be successful. And in the specific college essays, you're talking about how you'd be a great fit for the college, why you want to apply to that college, how you're going to make the most of the resources that they have there.
What are like some extracurriculars that help you like stand out to most colleges, if you know?
Yeah. So for me, it was definitely internships. I actually moved, so I'm in Texas right now, but I was in Wisconsin, for my freshman year. And so after I made that pivot, I realized like, okay, Texas has so many different opportunities that you can use. And so I just went ahead and networked like crazy. And in turn, that led me to get two internships at these AI startups that I was working at. And that was something that's like made me stand out from generally everyone else because nobody else had these internships that I had. And so when I was writing about it, I was probably one of the only people in the applicant pool that could talk about these experiences. And then also, like for me, when I was applying, making your own nonprofit and starting that was kind of the new trend. That's what everyone was doing. That's like the passion project now. And I think it's still pretty like, popular of, starting a nonprofit or starting an organization and leading it. But I went ahead and did that as well for cybersecurity, neuroscience, and finance. And that's what also helped me stand out. And again, I wouldn't recommend starting a nonprofit just for the sake of it. Of course, do it only if you're passionate about it, and I was, and I still am. But just make sure that you're doing something that you actually do like. I believe now it's internships plus research. If you have research, it does stand out. And again, every single university has a different priority, right? So for Cornell, it was like innovators, people who are building things. For MIT, they're heavy research. So they would want someone who has done a lot of research and also someone who's really good at building things. I'm not sure if you guys, and I'm sure for those of you guys applying now, you may have already came across on your feed like MIT Builder Portfolio or people who have built some crazy things and gotten into MIT and even gotten rejected. I think there's someone who built this car that they can drive and they got rejected from MIT. But it just shows the level of things that people are willing to do that they're passionate about to get into these universities and also just showcasing their passion. So something like that.
Uday asked a good question. He said, should my essay tie directly into my intended major, like engineering, for example, even if it means writing a fairly average story about something I've built, or should I write about like a hobby or core memory that's more personal, even if it doesn't connect as directly to my major?
So for me, again, on your personal statement, it's completely up to you the way you want to like write it, right? You don't have to mention your major because you'll do that in your why college major itself, in your why like in the supplemental essays. The way that I went ahead and did it is, of course, I wrote my topic with something that wasn't related at all to computer science, but what I did is I used computer science language. So I used like, I used like a recursion process, or I went ahead and repeated or reiterated my steps to make sure I got better each and every time. And so it's subtle things like this where you talk about, repeating the code or debugging the issue that I made or debugging the problem that I encountered. It was honestly pretty cringe thinking about it, but it's what helped me because again, you can kind of tie back to that like the thing that you're gonna do in your major, right? So for a CS major, they're debugging code a lot, or they're writing code, or they're reiterating the process again and again to make it a lot better. And so that's what I use. Like I, especially from what I remember, I talked about debugging. So like again, like it was like about a dishwasher. And so like unloading the dishwasher, debugging how I can do that in the quickest way possible. And so instead of saying like, oh, I unloaded the dishwasher, I talk about debugging the time it took. Something like that, super simple. And honestly, it doesn't even have to like fully relate, but as long as you can kind of try to make it make sense, that's what works. Again, it's also, if you wanted to, you could make it about how it's going to tie down to your major. I wouldn't recommend it though. I would probably talk about something that's personal, because that's what a personal brand is, right? Something that made who you are, like you who you are, and so that's what you want, at least in my opinion.
Someone else said, what should our brainstorming process look like? For example, I have some ideas, but I don't know if they're unique or if I can connect my values and experiences to them. I don't really understand how to personalize it to myself.
Yeah. So I would always advise start with the ending in mind. And the way that I say that is when you think about it, the conclusion is always the most important part. The hook and the conclusion, sorry. The hook and the conclusion. If you end off correctly, you're gonna really like leave the AO, admissions officer, in a good note, and they're gonna be like, dang, I really want to admit this kid. And so before we even start, visualize what the ending would look like. So again, for me, it was talking about how I'm gonna empower people or how I'm gonna make sure that like other people learn things a lot quicker than I learned it. And so when you begin with an end in mind, I feel like everything kind of just naturally falls into place with regards to the way that you kind of brainstorm and the way that you're kind of reiterating it. Also, if you guys don't think that your essays are personal, try to think and try to have someone else read it and ask, does this really relate to who I am? Or if this didn't have my name, or if you didn't know who this was, would you be able to relate it back to me? And this is really the help that, you would probably need from someone other than you, because of course you already know all about yourself, but you could probably give it to like a friend or a teacher or something like that and ask them like, hey, does this look like something that if you picked it up, you'd be able to tell this is mine? And that's how you know if it's actually personal.
Somebody asked if I write an essay for a scholarship, can I still reuse it?
Yeah, totally. Again, it also just depends on what prompt, right? So if a scholarship prompt was completely different from the personal statement, then of course don't do that. You can take inspiration from whatever it is that you wrote from the scholarship and apply it there. But if it's the same prompt, then you're more than welcome to you do it. Because again, it's your words and it's your choice of how you want to use it.
Someone else said, pick one scene incident from our life and explain how we overcome it and achieved or delivered something good of it. It sounds like we all need to follow the same format more likely. Will that be okay?
Okay, I think again, that's probably the most safest way that you can do it, right? And if you do have something else that you think of or something else that you think is unique, you're more than welcome to review it and do it that way. Personally, I've seen that this is what helps people the most, and instead the formatting, the story itself is what makes it different. Because of course, everyone else has a different scene. Everyone else is going to choose a different incident and how they grew from it. And so that's what sets people apart. So I wouldn't really be too worried about everyone having the same format. Also, when you think about it, there's hundreds of thousands of people applying to college, and oftentimes the people that are sitting in this call, they're probably the more people like who are going to be a lot more proactive. And when you think about it, a lot of the people may not even know how to write a successful college essay, let alone an academic essay themselves. So it really does kind of reduce the competition if you think about it in that way.
I think we mostly answered all the questions in chat, but if anybody else has like any questions, like feel free to let us know. You can go on.
Yeah, so Krish, in one of the item you mentioned about not to say something explicitly which is supporting the program what you're looking for. So like how do I blend? Let me give you an example. My daughter, she's interested into forensic science and she did local police department, they have something called Youth Explorer where she's participated 2 years. So when she writes or when we write the essay, should we just explicitly mention that she did this for 2 years and participated in different competitions to support what she's looking for, or trying to blend in a way where it is not very obvious? Like I'm confused between those two parts. Like, should we be more explicit in mentioning supporting what we are looking for, or trying to be like a blend in a subtle way to provide that we did such kind of a thing? Which one is the right way?
Yeah, so when you apply to college, there's an activities list. And on that activities list, that's where that belongs. So for 2 years, you went ahead and did that program. That's where you put it explicitly. Now, in your personal statement, you don't want to like write it explicitly because that comes off as, again, you're wasting valuable space that you've already used in that activity section. And so this is more about essays, but if you were to write about that experience, I would, unless it kind of like helped you grow or it helped you have a new view of the world, I would advise not to write that in your personal statement, but instead write about it in your supplemental essays. So like I said about that why major, right? So when you go ahead and you have this, why do you want to become a forensic science major or whatever it is that, they want to go into? Then you go ahead and explicitly state that, I went ahead and I went through this program, or this is what, helping and being with the police department helped me to learn. And this is in turn why I want to be joining and why I want to do this major at this university. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And then another question we had was if I'm applying to a university for something that is well known for, would it be disadvantageous if I mentioned or talked about something that the school isn't known for? For example, if I'm applying for a primarily STEM college, can I talk about wanting to go to their English department to discuss creative writing so I can work on one-on-one if I want to write?
Yeah. And no, it's not totally disadvantageous at all. It's actually really smart that you're doing that because, again, like you said, right? For example, Stanford, they're known for the CS program, engineering, all the STEM programs, but they also do have a pretty good literature program. And so when you talk about how again, you might want to go for a STEM major, but also capitalize on the other things that they might not be that well known for, it tells them that, okay, this kid is different. He doesn't just want to join us as a computer science major. He might also explore linguistics or history or something like that. So it isn't disadvantageous at all. In fact, it's actually pretty smart. Yeah, of course.
If there's any more questions, feel free to let us know. But if not, I think Krish had a couple words to say about like test pundits and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. But again, thanks you guys so much for joining us. A little bit more about Test Prep Pundits, right? So all of us are pretty good at what we do. We give SAT counts, like SAT help. We also give one-on-one AP exam support, and so all of our students are really qualified. They've all earned top 1% scores in the SAT, and it's all virtual. So we help you guys get tutoring and be really successful. And so it's really amazing. And I would highly advise that you guys join us if you guys do need help in SAT, AP exams, anything you name it, we probably are able to help you on that. And we are super committed to, empowering the students and helping the students. So yeah, more than happy to help. And again, if you guys need any more, questions or anything as well, I'll be more than happy to put my email in the chat as well, so you guys can email me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your undivided attention, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I just put my email in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. If anyone has any more other questions, feel free to ask them now.
And I would like to mention a thank you, Krish, for coming and helping and explaining these things to all these students. We had a great amount of participants. And also wanted to mention that we do have more sessions coming up. So in the chat is posted some information on that. If you want to engage in those more educational sessions, go ahead and sign up.
Thanks, Krish, and everybody who organized amazing work. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for your time.
Krish, I think most of the people are dropping off. Looks like they don't have any particular topic on this essay writing. Looks like.
Yep, I saw that as well. So I think if that's the case, again, have a good rest of your guys' day.
No. So so can I ask some questions, like more like a guidance kind of a thing? I'm like a immigrant parent, and my daughter is the first time going to college, so it's real overwhelming. So I will not take much of your time. I will be done in like 5-6 minutes. But can I ask questions or can I send you an email and to respect everybody's time? Like which way you
Yeah, I
prefer?
think if you can send an email and for anyone that might still be interested, just go ahead and send an email because this was mostly meant for this
Sure. Okay.
essay support. So I'll be more than happy to get in touch with you via email or something like that.
Okay, I will do that then. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Yeah.
Chris, that was my question. We get a lot of, first of all, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Gujarati Mandal Central Ohio really appreciates your time, and thanks to Test Prep Pundits as well. I'll pass on
Exactly.
my thank you to Antra and Anwarji. But is it okay to share your email? Because we get a lot of questions asking, "Hey, can we have access to the speaker?" And only if you're fine, or we
Yeah, of
can give
course.
Test
That's
Prep
completely all
Pundit.
right.
Okay,
No,
all
all
right.
good. Yeah, I think I already put it in the chat, but I can go ahead and put it again if you want.
I see
Yeah,
it.
if
I
you can
got
put it
it.
in WhatsApp, that way Anvi
I
and
have it.
Siddhi can send
I
it
have
out.
it too. I've copied it.
I have the email too.
I can send it out. Yeah.
Perfect. No, this was great. And is it okay to share the slides as well, right? We can share
Yeah,
the
all
slides.
good. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Ami,
Thank you guys
Anvi,
so much for
Siddhi, you
your
want to
time.
add anything?
No.
Yeah, I think that it was super
Oh yeah.
informative and it like helped a lot. So thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Especially signing up for this at the last moment, right?
Yeah.
We got
We
in
really
touch with you what, a
appreciate
couple
it
days
with the
ago.
adjustment of time and everything you guys did, and you coming on and helping us out was really great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's a team effort, so all good.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Yep, y'all have a good rest of your day.
Yep.
You too.